forget what a fast track this is, don't you, to come back here for the first time?
It's a great track to ride, Julian. Really a fantastic track. Dropping down into Deersley, over Deersley, then onto the start and finish straight now. Past the pit board, keeping an eye on what's going on. There's John Reynolds at Old Hall already. Reynolds looking menacing onto the avenue. Can he catch Hodgson, and can they catch Chris Walker? He's flying.
He is. The timing monitors have just told us he set the fastest lap of the race last time round. So if Reynolds closes the gap at all, Keith, we'll get some money on him for the fastest lap.
Look at Hodgson here. He carries such a lot of corner speed through Cascades and along the lakeside here and onto Island Bend. We're looking at third place and even wheeling halfway down the straight there from John Reynolds. Just goes to show you, it's a bit bumpy here, but as I said, Hodgson has closed right in. But I'll tell you, on the brakes, you've got a big job to catch Chris Walker. 1:33.384 is the time then from Chris Walker. I think we're going to see faster as this race really warms up.
1:33.0 was John Reynolds' pole yesterday. Conditions are good for racing, so I think you're right, Keith. We're going to see that time bettered. Oh, look at Walker.
I'll tell you what, Walker gets through that chicane really quickly, up and over Hilltop. And Hodgson, if anything, just a bit of slack in the second part of the chicane, really scrubs off all the speed on the Ducati. So a little bit of improvement area there for Neil if he wants to pay attention to that.
Is that the different characteristics of the motorbike, though, Keith? The quick steering Suzuki and the bigger Ducati?
Almost certainly. So up and over Clay Hill, on towards Druids, the double right. It is number 2, Chris Walker leading with Neil Hodgson. Looking very, very good. A little bit of a wheelie. This is a great part of the track. I love this. Down towards Lodge Corner now, into the braking area, back down the gearbox. Whoa! Go on, Chris.
Situation normal.
Sideways, absolutely. He's a hooligan.
Anybody else did that, you'd be out the seat. When you see Chrissy doing it, oh, it's normal. There's the JR pit board.
Yeah, lap 12 plus 1, okay.
Yep.
I think he'll be taking too much notice of that because he's right on top of it. Here we go, Old Hall. A face full of motorcycle over our curb cap. Chris Walker there again, another fastest lap for Chris Walker. So he's putting lap on top of lap. It's only by hundredths of a second faster than anyone else, but that's all you need in this kind of race.
Keith, stupid question for you. If he smoothed it out a bit, could he go faster?
Well, you'd say that from any other rider.
Absolutely.
But I don't know about Chris Walker. He seems to like it sideways on. I remember speaking to Carl Fogarty about his style. He couldn't believe he does it either. But I have to hark back to the likes of Wayne Gardner, who was very similar. He went on to be a 500cc world champion. So Walker, another fastest lap confirmed then. Hodgson in second place. Hodgson, a much, much smoother man, and so is John Reynolds.
Oh, yes.
So will tyres come into the act? We'll have to wait and see. Look at that. As soon as we get to this section of the track, Hodgson is right there with Walker, but out of that chicane, he just cannot keep it tight to Walker. Walker is better through the chicane. Up and over Hilltop, down to Knickerbrook, down this right, and really quick through here. Chuck it on its side, and then it's up and over the hill. Our camera flattens it out for you, but it is a hill, believe me. A little bit of a wheelie at the top, and here we are, straight on for the run on down towards Druid. Superb Holton Park.
Where are the passing places on this track? Obviously turn 1 on the brakes.
Yeah, and we're about to come to the favourite, which is Lodge Corner. It all happens here on the brakes, and don't worry, everyone will be checking out their braking points into this corner. It's the last gasp corner for braking into Deersley. By the time you get into Deersley, that's it. You've either won or lost the race. Over the line then, Chris Walker. Hodgson is even closer as we come to Old Hall.
And Reynolds is further away from the leading 2. It looks like we have a 2-man dice at the front.
I'm shocked at that. I thought Reynolds was right with these boys.
They're stretching them out. Well, Chris Walker's setting fastest lap after fastest lap. Obviously, they're going to string out a bit at the front.
Well, we've heard Neil Hodgson already say that it was Chris Walker that made him go fast.
Here we go.
Donington Park.
Hodgson
Here comes
territory.
Hodgson. He carried great corner speed again down through Cascades. He's making Walker go the long way round. But Walker certainly didn't give it to him. Walker sat right on Hodgson. So, back at the shell corner now, into the braking area. Oh, and he's run out a little bit wide. He has gone. Wow!
Oh, contact!
Wow, Chris Walker wasn't going to let him have that, was he? So Hodgson ran in there a little bit hot, let that Ducati drift a little bit wide, and Chris Walker, he might not, he shouldn't have perhaps gone for the gap, but he did anyway.
And you know what I said about John Reynolds' race being done with?
Yeah.
Not.
Well, if they're going to trip each other up like that, Reynolds will be the first to try and take some kind of control over it. So as we look at the boys going over the top of Clay Hill, this is the build-up to that passing manoeuvre at Island. First of all, it was Walker who got the rear end lit up, which gave Hodgson the chance to get underneath him on the run to Island. But Walker wasn't done with that. He sat right on top of Hodgson going into Island. And then it was Neil Hodgson down towards the braking area at the shell corner, on the brakes now, but he just starts to run a little bit wide on the entry to the turn. He lets the bike run up the hill effectively because of the camber to scrub the raw speed off. There is a gap. well, allegedly, and through comes Chris Walker. Bit of a nudge there for Neil Hodgson, but all's fair in love, war and superbike racing.
Oh, that was a gap, Keith. That was a gap, wasn't it? No argument there, surely.
No argument at all, except if your right hand's been taken off the handlebars, it can be a bit of a problem for steering, Julian. Still, it is Chris Walker that leads there.
Academic.
From Neil... Academic. Yeah, it's a very wet end out there at Shell when you end up in the water. So let's take a look at it. Walker still leads, Hodgson still second. We're coming back to the turn at Shell.
And we had no Mackenzie on that capture.
Neil Mackenzie.
Because Plater is up to 6th, so we've lost.
Plater has been riding good all weekend, but...
getting better and better on the Superbike, that boy.
Indeed.
Well,
he's not too bad on the Superstocks bike, and his first outing on the Superstocks bike earlier on today. Now then, let's take a look at the Folkestone chicane. Again, look at that. You saw Hodgson struggles just to turn that bike in. He can't get back on the gas. He's on the wrong part of the track, and then he has to do all his good work yet again. So Walker at Knickerbrook flapping leathers. Well, he's going to be in a flap in a bit if Hodgson gets back with him again. Clayhill next. Up and over the left. Oh, that's the reason why, Julian, you picked it up earlier off the capture. Neil Mackenzie is in. Well, that is really... Colin Wright, his team manager there, puts his arm round him. He will be bitterly disappointed with that because Mackenzie is hitting form at last on the V-twin. He's ridden just about everything through his career, Mackenzie, and this is the first year on a V-twin motorcycle. Here is Chris Walker then. Ah, sideways on the brakes into Lodge Corner. Chris Walker frightens the life out of Neil Hodgson. Over the line then, these boys are going at it hammer and tong. Who is going to win out of these two? Walker leads on lap 8, but Hodgson is about to renew his challenge, I'm sure. This is the part of the course we talked about before. Look at that. I tell you, Hodgson can take a nice tight line. Is he going to try and get under it? I don't know. Touching it nearly. Hodgson goes underneath. Chris Walker, Julian. Oh,
will he run?
Not much of a gap there.
Not a lot. Now then, can he defend it this time? Yeah. Walker's looking.
He's on the inside, so Hodgson is okay unless he runs wide like he did last time. He's run a little bit wide, but
not enough.
Even Walker ain't going to get in that gap.
He thought about it, though, I'm sure.
He did as well, didn't he?
He definitely had you could see the body language.
Now then, it's about Hodgson. Can he scrub the speed? Again, he runs just a little wide on that second part of the course, but he gets the power down now over Hilltop. It's a question of Slipstream City. Can the Suzuki do it? No, he can't. So down into Knickerbrook, it is the INS GSE Ducati of Neil Hodgson that leads now. And over Clayhill, look at Chris Walker. He is all but on that Ducati with Neil Hodgson.
No surprise about that fastest lap captain for last time round for Neil. He's got to keep the pace up. Keith, in that chicane where we see Walker has such an advantage, is there such a thing as a defensive line if you're leading?
Well, you just scrub the speed off and make the bloke go through it as slow as you do. Oh, Walker sideways again. I tell you what, John Reynolds is having another little look at this. John Reynolds in 3rd place. He's still not out of this equation. If these two have a bit of a coming together, Reynolds can certainly pick the pieces up. Over the line then. Number 4, Neil Hodgson. He's pulled a lead already. I tell you, smooth riding. Hodgson is so smooth on and off track.
Absolutely. Could be another fastest lap coming up, I think, Keith.
Well, looks like prediction. Lap 9 then. Oh, and John Reynolds has got the fastest lap, Julian. Right prediction.
From Ducati.
Indeed. So, John Reynolds, well, we did say he was making a... Well, I said, I think a bit earlier that he looked as if he was still in the hunt here. But maybe he's not got to be opportunistic. Maybe he's going fast enough to win this one.
I was waiting for the opportunistic bit. When these two start tying each other in knots, then John can close up.
Now then, let's take a look at this. John Reynolds has fired his gun in 3rd place. Neil Hodgson in 1st place has fired his 2. But Chris Walker seems to have just dropped off the pace very slightly here at the moment. So Walker on the National Tyre Suzuki in 2nd place. Might just be struggling a little bit. Here's Reynolds on the Rev A Red Bull Ducati. Fastest lap concerned. Hey, that's his pole time just about.
It's 100 under his pole time. Quicker than pole.
Over Hilltop then. Hodgson, Walker, Reynolds. And looming back there in 4th place, still James Hayden, I think.
Yep, running a good race on the second of the Red Bull Ducatis. Which bike would you rather have around here, Keith, the Duke or a Suzuki?
I'll have the Suzuki if Chris Walker's on it. But not me.
Oh, get off that fence.
No, the Ducatis, I think, definitely approved here. Don't forget the INS GSE Ducatis last year were winners in the hands of Troy Bayliss here. Neil Hodgson, of course, he's with the same motorcycle he rode here last year, but the man behind him, he hasn't ridden a Suzuki at this track. So Chris Walker, he's in unknown territory at the moment.
Ridden a 4-cylinder bike here, the Kawasaki he used to be on, Keith. Similar or too different to compare?
I think the Suzuki is different to the Kawasaki, but Only Chris Walker can tell you definitively on that one. Along the avenue then, down to Cascade. Certainly Walker's having a good time here with the Suzuki.
Very, he looks right at home on that motorbike. It seems to suit his, shall we say, all-action style. Steve Plater, sixth, getting better and better on the Kawasaki we were just talking about.
Hooligan style, I think I'll have gone for